And now for my third and final talk on sexual robotics. I'll start with a brief recap. As I've discussed in the first two talks, a viable market for these products has already been established in the form of sex dolls, ringing in at a cool $30 billion annually. Linked. With technology doubling at a rapid pace, advancements, and considerable ones, are inevitable and will at some point reach mind-blowing levels. I've also asserted that we have no way to determine how fast those changes will come, and that some changes may be a matter of if and not when. Notwithstanding, advances that send robotics to the good enough level for increasing numbers of men are inevitable. And who knows, perhaps in the time of your grandchildren or great-grandchildren, men will be able to purchase a walking, talking, lifelike robotic copy of their favorite porn star who has licensed the use of replicas of her body. And if we are indulging in the realm of possibilities, those sex robots may be capable of much more than sex. Everything from cooking your meals and cleaning to major home repairs to providing psychotherapy and home security. To sum it up, sexual robotics is a watershed on the horizon, however distant. Its impact on human society won't be measured by any one technological breakthrough, though. Rather, that impact will be measured solely on sufficient numbers of men seeing the technology as a viable refuge away from the complications and hazards presented by real women. When that happens, you will see the most profound shift in sexual politics that has ever happened. In fact, given our understanding that traditional gynocentrism and feminist gynocentrism are just slightly different expressions of the same underlying pathology, it will be the first truly profound shift in sexual politics that has ever happened. I expect that sex botters, or some other more pithy tag for men who use them as an alternative or a replacement for involvement with real human females, will eclipse MRAs and MGTOW in terms of social identification. I also expect that the effects on the female psyche will be staggering. Here's the deal. At the heart of gynocentrism, of female privilege, whether traditionalist or feminist, is access to sex for men. There is literally nothing else to it. Despite that, we create illusions about it to distract us from the ugly, embarrassing truth about our fatal weakness where it comes to women. Chivalry and the perception of women as fragile, in need of male strength and provision, is not one bit different than feminism. In fact, feminism is chivalry. The only thing different in the ideological shell game is that feminists have replaced women's fragility with women's oppression. Feminism is to traditionalism what Burger King is to McDonald's. Competition for the same shitty, unhealthy product. And of course, the implied rewards for cooperating with the respective narratives are the same. Access to pussy. We dress the bullshit up in slightly different ways. Traditionalists cloak their pursuit of pussy behind a facade of being a stand-up guy, or a real man, as it were. Real men are rewarded with sex and the adulation of women, which of course is why so many men pursue the hapless goal of being a real man. And they do this even when they can't identify what that means, except to say that it results in the approval of women. Male feminists are playing the same exact game. Just trade out the term real man for the term male ally, and you have the same result. A perceived access to pussy and the adulation of women. This, too, is shrouded in all manner of social puffery about being a stand-up, morally fit guy. And of course, what it means in reality, just as it does with traditionalists, is that they are good about lying to themselves about their true motives. In the modern schema of male identity, the mindless, sacrificial pursuit of pussy is hidden behind every ideology, agenda, and value system. It's not about equality. It's about pussy. It's not about manning up. It's about pussy. It's not about being morally upright, sound of character, or virtuous. It's about pussy. Members of the red pill community can take some pride in being the exception to that rule, and robotics will one day open that door to a hell of a lot more men. The effect on women will be profound because pussy is the only real empowerment women will ever know. Put all the hopelessly wishful thinking of feminist ideology aside, and what remains is the fact that it is men, and pretty much men only, who draw power from accomplishment, who invent technology, build nations, cure disease, create empires, and generally advance civilization. Women, whether acknowledging it makes us feel warm and fuzzy or not, depend on men for all of that. And the only tool they have at their disposal to have any sort of influence on any of it is the power of pussy. And pussy is powerful indeed. A funny example of this, linked, was 19-year-old Jennifer LaPenta, who walked into an Illinois courtroom in support of a friend and was promptly thrown in jail for wearing a T-shirt that read, "I have the pussy, so I make the rules." Courtrooms are often places that disapprove of such truth and directness, and the female jurist on the bench expressed that disapproval with a contempt citation and 48 hours in the Hooskow. But make no mistake, the shirt was about as honest as it gets, and every man that ever saw that shirt knows full well that it's true. I doubt if a male judge would have had the tolerance for dissonance required to lock LaPenta up. And that is the potential power of sexual robotics, not in the ability to replace women, but the ability to replace pussy. In that, however, I may be making a distinction without a difference. Biologically speaking, men are peculiar creatures. We work tirelessly, often at dangerous jobs in harsh conditions or under the oppressive thumb of other men in stifling, soul-killing environments, gathering all the resources we can so that we can surrender it in vain attempts to please women and therefore gain access to pussy. You can toss all that grandiose protector and provider crap aside. If pussy were not part of the original negotiation, men would not be protecting and providing for women at all. And in that respect, sexual robotics may well prove to be the best thing that ever happened to women from the standpoint of their humanity. What would the world be like for women if Jennifer LaPenta's T-shirt were no longer true? What if having the pussy meant you weren't running shit? If that ever happens, and now it seems that within reason it will, what would that do to the vast majority of women who would suddenly have to prove their worth as human beings beyond being the simple owners of said pussy? What would happen if women suddenly had to woman up? I'm not sure that I would want to be there for the blood, sweat, and tears-filled existential crisis that would happen. And I'm highly doubtful that women could respond to that crisis effectively, developing the integrity, human values, and human decency needed to overcome the deficit in pussy power. Mind you, the thought of this doesn't grace me with the redeeming experience of schadenfreude. In fact, it's just the opposite. I see that possible future as a necessarily torturous correction of a problem for which women do not bear total responsibility. The fact is that men, for countless generations, have competed viciously to set the lowest possible standards on women's character, to in fact ensure that women aren't challenged by any standards or expectations at all, save beauty and sexual availability. And like with all other things that humans pursue with feverish abandon, they have succeeded wildly. They have created in women expectations of themselves so low that they could be used to play limbo at expert level. I see nothing in that worth celebrating or worth feeling smug about when the day comes that women pay the price. And for those who mistakenly interpret my words as saying that women aren't anything more than just pussy, think again. I'm just telling you exactly what women have been telling the world my whole life. They put it on T-shirts like Jennifer LaPenta and 1,000 other slogans like Girls Rule and Boys Drool. They message the world constantly that their pussy sets them above, affords them privilege, and exempts them from accountability. They demand the world around them evaluate them solely by gender, telling us in a million different ways that the pussy is the final measure of who they are. Don't blame me for listening. All of this, of course, represents the worst of human failings, smearing egg on the faces of women and men alike. But it is not, in any credible way, misogyny. As I've said more than once, I still prefer the bigger picture, especially where it concerns the well-being of men and boys. And the big picture here is more important than the microcosm of sexual robotics. In the opinion of this social commentator, appreciating the implications of sexual robotics is an amusing, even inspiring pastime, a kind of a red pill daydream. Obsession on the subject, however, waiting with great anticipation and anxiousness for the day to come to be freed from the power of pussy, is a straight-up blue pill frame of mind. It's just more of the oh-so-easily disguised gynocentrism. It's the power of pussy all over again. The fact is that we don't have to wait 5, 50, or 500 years for the change that makes the difference today. And we don't have to wait on robotics. What we have to do, and what any man worth his salt will do, is walk through the fire of red pill life. That holds true whether you choose to be with women or not. In fact, I will wager, perhaps to the dismay of some of the more ideologically driven MGTOW out there, that the men who engage women in some form or fashion while hanging on to their values, their identity, and their boundaries are probably stronger in the red pill than some of those who opt for the life of a monk. MGTOW monks don't get their beliefs and values challenged in the same way as red pill men who stand strong, even when confronted by the power of pussy. That is not a criticism of men who go monk, just a statement of obvious fact. And that for me is where the rubber meets the road on the journey to self-actualization. Men who self-actualize are men who can stand their ground anywhere in life, and who choose to every time. Men for whom the power of pussy is a cross for blue pill idiots to bear. Sex robots? Great stuff for the imagination, and I'd be a liar to say I would not indulge in it if I lived in a world where it was possible. Order me up a Natalie Wood sex bot. Well, one that can float, unlike the original. But I have found, true to life, that virtually everything a lifelike sex robot could provide is already available in my life, complements of my red pill prescription. And that, like the rest of this story, has little to do with sex. I don't need a machine or the approval of women to make me whole.
And that is it for today's talk. As always, I hope you've enjoyed and see you next time.